All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our channel at Didikanku with your host, David. Today, I have a, very special guest. He's the founder of the Art of Speaking Academy and a very excellent coach and mentor, Mr. Yogesh Kapoor. Yogesh, welcome.
Thank you, David. Thank you for having me.
How are you today, sir?
I'm good. I'm good as usual.
All right. So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? What exactly is the Art of Speaking Academy and maybe a bit of your background?
Sure. So I grew up in Hong Kong. I educated myself in Hong Kong, and everything. Married there, had kids. All Hong Kong. And I was born into a business family, but I realized after 16 years of being in business that this is not something I wanted to do. This was
Mhm.
not fueling my soul. And eventually I joined a speaking club. And what I realized was I felt I was born to speak and lead.
Mm.
And right after that, after a year or two, I started my own academy, which is the Art of Speaking Academy. And what I do is I train children, adults, youth, CEOs, corporates, startups in helping deliver their message. So if you put it in another way, I am a fear to fun catalyst. I help
Mm.
people, find their voice.
Right.
I take people with passion and take their stories and I bring their stories to life and change the world.
That's some very powerful stuff right there. When you're able to articulate and get your story and your message across. I also understand like you yourself join tournaments or you did before the pandemic.
In fact, it's good you mentioned. I actually have a contest this Sunday and
Ooh.
Saturday. I compete every year in the World Championship of Public Speaking, and
Mm.
one of my goals is to be the world champion.
Yeah.
I did get close back in 2017. I made it to top 30, and the journey is still on. I keep competing every year.
Oh wow. Is that open to public to watch or
Sometimes it depends because Zoom has its limitations, right?
right?
But we have Facebook groups where they run it live, and many people can watch the speech over there. I will
Hmm.
get the details to you for it.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I'm sure some of our listeners might want to watch you competing. Um, so can you share a little bit about how you got into public speaking and competing? And what were some of the challenges you faced when you first started?
So for me, it was the year 2012. I was feeling a bit lost with my life. I didn't know what to do. So my brother-in-law asked me to go join a speaking club just to
Mm,
check it out. He said, maybe you can become a life coach, but first you need to get your speaking correct.
I
So I
see.
went to this club in Hong Kong. I visited it. I Googled it, found it. And in the first meeting itself, I was asked as a guest to come and speak without preparing anything. And the moment I went up on stage and I spoke, I just was hit with electricity. And I was like, you know what? I'm born to do this. And I got into the whole speaking thing, and I was very hungry. I was very hungry to
Mm,
speak. I always wanted to deliver messages and practice my speaking. And I was very lucky that the people I was mentored by were some of the best in Hong Kong. So that started my journey into speaking. And then in 2015, I stepped into the coaching part because I realized there's so many
okay.
people out there with beautiful messages, and they don't know how to deliver their message. So I got
Right.
into the coaching part of it, and alongside I kept competing since 2014.
Okay.
And I won in these few years. I've won numerous contests. I've won the humorous contest. I've won the evaluation contest. Evaluation means you
Okay.
watch another speaker and give them feedback. I've won the impromptu speaking contest where you're given a topic and you have to speak for 2 minutes without
Right.
preparing. And I've also, like I mentioned earlier, I've been in the international speech contest, which I do every year. And one of the goals is to be world champion of public speaking.
So there's actually quite a few different contests and categories in public speaking,
Oh,
and
yes.
it seems like you've been able to master almost all of them, and you have one goal, which is to master and be number one in the international competition. Is that right?
Yes, correct. Yes, correct. And to answer your question earlier, which was what are the challenges? It can be
Mm,
difficult when you want to deliver a message and the audience is from a different region or a different country. Because,
mm,
for example, when I compete here in Indonesia, it's, audiences from Malaysia, it's audiences from Brunei. So I'll just give you a
right,
simple example. In my speech this year, I speak about, eating Indomie. And not now, that was for the first 3 rounds because the contest was limited to Indonesia. But now that we have Malaysia and Brunei included in the contest, it's like, can I mention Indomie? Will they
right,
understand? So you have to be very careful of your audience and the
mm,
kind of humor you put out there. Like
right,
back in Hong Kong, I could give a speech and go a little out of bounds when it came to the humor, but
mm,
you have to be careful of the humor you use in Indonesia or Malaysia because the culture is different. So you
right.
got to be very, those are some of the challenges. And sometimes what happens is people might not understand your message from a different cultural point of view. So
Mm,
I have to use my words and my mannerisms accordingly for them to understand.
okay. So getting to know your audience and kind of when you're preparing, keeping in mind the background and cultural references that you might be using when you're trying to tell a story or convey your message.
Correct.
So, is that a challenge that you faced when you first started, or is it a challenge that you continue to face up to now?
Well, I continue to face it, right? Because, like, example, yesterday I practiced my speech for the coming contest in my club in Hong Kong and my club in
Mhm.
Indonesia. And, the club in Hong Kong was like, okay, it's fine, it sounds okay. But here in Indonesia, they're like, oh, you were too fast. And, it seems a little complicated. We can't understand it. So you see, I look at both points
Interesting.
of view.
Right.
And what I have to do is I have to see what is the common feedback I got. Like, what
Mm,
is something that everybody is saying? And I focus on that.
mm.
And some
So,
things that I think that, yeah, I feel it needs to be changed, I'll change. But you cannot take feedback from everybody because then
right,
you're just going to end up doing a whole new speech. And
right,
that might
right,
not resonate with you. So I just have to go back to my notes and, okay, now what can I do? What can I cut off? What can I add in? How do I make this message more clear, more simplified? And sometimes it's difficult because you got to let go of a very important, joke, or you have to let go of a very
right,
important statement that you want to say, but you just realize that maybe it doesn't help in delivering your message. So
right.
sometimes I've even got rid of a whole paragraph out of the speech because
Mm,
I'm like, is it that necessary to say this? We because we have a 7-minute time limit and a
right,
30
right,
second buffer. So if you
right.
go overtime, you're disqualified. And yesterday I timed myself. I was 7 minute 26. So I
Ooh,
was 4 seconds away from disqualification. And
right,
if everyone's
right.
saying I'm speaking fast, then that means I really need to cut down a little bit because if I have to
Mm,
go slower, I have the chance of, getting disqualified. So that means I have to really dig deep, look at my speech again and again and again. And I only have 4 days before the
right,
contest. So that leaves me
right.
with very little time to actually practice it again. It's more of just get in, get everything out, and then just deliver on Sunday.
So there's an interesting thing you said there, whereas like one very useful thing is actually practicing in front of people, in front of peers, and then getting feedback from them to help you, I guess, reorganize your content or make some edits to manage your time and to make sure your message is getting across.
Yeah.
And I think
Correct.
that's what a lot of people forget to do. They just think, oh, I've done it in front of a mirror. I can do it. I can get on stage. And they miss that useful part of feedback, actually getting useful feedback. But I think, like you said, making sure that you filter the feedback and adjust it according to your style. So Yogesh, now with the pandemic, a lot of people are doing things digitally, virtually. Um, is there a big difference in actually doing something in front of a live audience as opposed to doing it virtually? What can you share on that?
Oh, definitely. There's a major difference because when you're speaking live, you can see the audience reaction. You can look at their faces, and at the same time, if they laugh, you can hear their laughter. If you
Right.
see they're getting, they're smiling, you can see their smiles. If they're getting bored, you can tell. You can feel their energy, and
Mm,
when you feel their energy, you make those quick decisions on where to take the whole presentation. Like if you think the energy is low, you ask them to get up, stretch, do
right.
some exercise. But online it's different, right? You can't really
Mm,
see or feel their energy, and they don't have anyone beside them, so you can't say, okay, put your hand on your neighbor's shoulder or do something like
right.
that. You can't do all of that.
Right.
You can, of course, ask them to stand up and dance and stuff or something like that, which we do sometimes online, but it's different, right? You can't
Mm,
really feel it. And
right.
and on the online space, the attention span of a listener is only 5 minutes.
Mm,
So imagine every 5 minutes, you have to be so engaging that their energy levels are flowing.
right. I was going to say, like, when you're doing it online, you can't even tell if they're actually listening to you. They could be
Yeah, if
looking
the
in the
camera is turned
camera,
off, yeah. Yeah, if the
or
camera
they're
is
they're
turned off, you don't
looking
even know.
they're looking at their monitor, which makes it look like they're looking at the camera and listening to you, but they're actually reading something or doing something else on their monitor. I think
Yep,
could
yep,
also be, if they're bored, right? If you're not engaging them.
yep, exactly. So the biggest difference is uh, in face to face in the real speaking world, your body language counts 55% of what the listener and the observer is watching, right? But on
Right.
the online space, it's your voice. Your voice takes over your body language, because you see, you're not going to stand up and walk around while you're presenting online. You're sitting on your chair, you're presenting, or you're standing, but your body language, they can't really see you move too much. And if I do too much of hand gestures and stuff, it's going to be like distracting, right? But it's my voice.
Right.
So I give you a simple example. Who's excited? Put a 111 in the chat group, you know?
Mm,
Okay, and then when there's a speaker, after the speaker finishes, let's give the speaker some love in the chat group, right? So it's my voice directing the audience online.
so it sounds like tone is also important. How you use your tone is
Oh
also
yeah, how
very
you
important when you're doing
yeah.
it. I'm sure it's important when you're doing it in front of a live audience, but it's even more so when you're doing it virtually. Is that right?
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. Your tone, your pitch, your rate, how to speak, suddenly raise your volume, how to speak fast, how to show excitement. It's you have to really know what you're doing
Right.
if you want to keep that audience intact with you.
Do you want to, like, sometimes use your tone to shock your audience?
Yes, I did that in my last year's contest, because my
Interesting.
speech title last year was called Get Out. And at the end of my speech, what I did was I looked at the camera and I said, and I screamed, "Get out!" And the contest master, she, after the contest, she was like, you startled me. and I think that is what made me win the contest. And it's
Mm,
interesting that this year, when I was competing, one of my friends, her husband's, he heard my name, and the first thing he said was, "Oh, get out!" Like he remembers it from last year.
right,
You see? You
right,
see? So it was so impactful, mind screaming, that it still registered in many people's head, like, "Oh yeah, get out."
right. It's that unexpected moment that resonates
Yeah.
with the listener or with the audience. That's um, that's quite interesting.
Yep.
Um, so when did you start the Art of Speaking Academy?
So
And
I started it in 2015.
mhm. And can you share a little bit about like one of your clients and how um, how joining the Art of Speaking Academy impacted their lives? Maybe share a success story of one of your um, clients.
Sure. I'll start with my first student
Mm,
because he was a kid who would, when he would talk to me face to face, he wouldn't even look me in the eye. And
mm,
he would talk and then he would suddenly turn away. And that showed me that he really lacked confidence.
right.
I worked with him for 8 months. And in those 8 months, it was very interesting because uh, there were three different assignments he had. One, he spoke in front of the whole school, and it was, I think, inspirational week. And he went on and gave an inspirational speech. So that was one thing he did. And then the second thing was he was part of his school sailing club, and he
Okay.
had to raise funds for his sailing club. So I helped him to deliver a speech where he did that in front of his peers and his principal and all, and he was able to get funding for his sailing club. And
Wow.
the third most
So you
important
taught him
assignment,
how to like pitch, basically do a pitch to get
yes,
investment.
yes, exactly. And the
Wow, wow,
third thing
very
was he had a literature project. He had a literature project, and I don't know much about literature, to be honest. But when he did the speech in front of me, I helped him to deliver it in such a way that it was impactful. And
mm,
I got a call from his mom after he delivered that. His literature teacher was really happy, and so was the mom. And in his final report card, because that counted a large mark for his final report card, and he did very well.
wow.
And he just rocked it that whole year by being this kid who couldn't speak to suddenly being this guy who can do anything. And
Wow.
he actually messaged me in 2017 when he was graduating, and I was going Vancouver for my international speech contest. And he sent me a note saying that during our graduation, one of our teachers was not acknowledged, and I went up with a few other students that acknowledged her, and she started
Wow.
crying because she's been there for 25 or 26 years, and they forgot about her. And then he's like, "Had you
Mm,
not taught me how to speak, I would never have been able to do that."
right, right. So you mentioned like he lacked confidence in the beginning, and it seems like going through your program and with your coaching and mentoring, he was able to not only build his confidence, but also kind of find opportunities where he can actually use this skill to actually do a very nice heartwarming story you just told there, where he recognized a teacher, where he would never have probably done that if he had not have joined your academy. So is that a common theme for a lot of the people you coach for public speaking, like confidence, or are there other areas
Yeah,
that
it's not just about confidence. There's a lot of things involved, right? How do you move on stage? How do you use props while doing your presentation? I've
Mhm.
worked with recently. I worked with a very interesting cryptocurrency company from Indonesia, and
Mm.
they had to do a presentation in event in Dubai. And what I helped was help them tell their story, because what I noticed was their presentation was very flat and they didn't have a story to tell, because you have to understand it's stories that connect with the audience, especially in businesses. It's the story behind a company and why they started and all. So I help them with that storytelling for business, and they did that presentation. And what I've heard is they've been doing pretty well. They've been selling a lot of their crypto now, and you know public speaking or presentation skills is we just say it so simply, public speaking, but there's a lot of things involved, a
Right.
lot. Like where you should pause, where should you stand on stage, how should you present, what questions to ask your audience. There's a lot that goes into it,
Right.
and that requires years and years of practice, years and years of observing others. Like I have studied 34 world champions,
Mm.
you know 34 world champions since 1986 till now. So you can
Right.
imagine that the amount of listening and observing I've done,
Right.
is way more than the speaking I've done. So
Mm.
that's something people don't realize. They think it's speaking is just about speaking. No, the number one thing is you got to listen and observe. I watch
Right.
a lot of speakers. I learn from them.
Right.
Even like right now, listening to you, I might learn something, or a question you ask, I might pick up on that. So I'm
Right.
always in that listening and observing mode.
Right. That's really interesting and very true that a lot of people forget the practice and learning side involved in a lot of these skills, such as public speaking. Um, so is is public speaking, it is a skill, is it a perishable skill? Like you were saying that you're listening to other coaches and you're practicing. So if you don't practice, would you lose that skill?
It's not like you would lose that skill, because remember, for example, when you give a speech, right? Suppose you haven't given a speech for many months, many years.
Right.
What can happen is you might go back into your old state where you feel less confident and you're not sure how you want to speak in front of someone. And sometimes you have to bring that confidence back. And at the
Mhm.
same time, every time I do my speeches, they keep changing. I keep polishing it. So what happens is when you don't speak for a long period of time, there's a possibility that you go back to your old habits and you bring in
Right.
a lot of filler words. You start going you get scared, and your energy levels are not the same. So it's a fine balance between how you have to show up, how you have to balance your energy, how to get the crowd keep going. Like every Friday, I host another event, which is a company that I co-founded with others called Coach Talk Cafe. And every Friday I have to host. So, when you do it regularly, it's like you have the energy levels, you know what to say, what to do. But if I didn't do it for like a month or two and then suddenly I have to host, I would start feeling a little uncomfortable again. I'd be like, okay, so how did I do this the last time? But
Right.
because I'm in the daily mode of practicing speaking, like I'm either training, coaching, or presenting, or sometimes somebody asks me to do a motivational speech or a keynote speech. So I'm in the daily practice of it, you know?
Mm.
And it's not more of that it's a perishable skill, it's more of a reminder, right? Like
Right.
when you do driving or
Right.
when you do bicycling, but when you don't do it for a while, you kind of, might not do it
As
perfectly.
well.
Like
You might not do it as well as before, but you can still get on a bike or get in the car,
yeah,
but you might have an accident. The chances of an accident might be higher now that you
yeah,
have it.
exactly.
Right, right.
Exactly. Like recently, I haven't been driving much since the pandemic, but recently I took the car out to the south side, and I'm a little rusty, and I made a wrong turn, and I banged the bumper on the side. So
Mm.
it, and there's no traffic, and yet
Right.
I had an accident. So you can imagine what happens, right? I got a little rusty. So it's more of, any skill is more of just doing it repetitively till you get it right.
Absolutely. 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 Doing something that you enjoy doing, and being able to continue to hone your skills is definitely really important. And it kind of goes into a theme that I've been talking about with the listeners, which is fake teachers and fake coaches, people who say that they can help you in a certain area, but they don't actually do it themselves. So you're not a fake. You're definitely a genuine teacher, coach, mentor. You're actually doing these speeches, joining these competitions, practicing, and you started a speaking club as well. Sorry, what was it again? Just
The
if
Art
our
of Speaking
listener,
Academy. Oh, you
sorry.
mean the one on Fridays?
Yes, the one on Fridays.
Okay, that is more of a coaching club. So it's called
Okay,
Coach Talk Cafe.
Coach Talk Cafe.
Yeah.
And what's the difference with that coaching club and the Art of Speaking Academy?
So the art of speaking is more focused on public speaking and presentation skills. Coach Talk Cafe is more about coaching. So we're not talking about just general coaching. We're talking about many forms of coaching. So we
Right.
have guest speakers, some who belong to the Coach Talk Cafe platform, and some who are from outside. We have someone come out speak on personal development, and we have someone come and speak on business skills in coaching. So we have these categories, and like for example, we this Saturday we launched a women's empowerment cafe,
Mm,
and in the future we're planning to have a youth cafe in June, which is going to be free for the youth. And there's a lot more cafes coming. So we're going to have like spa and healing cafe. We're going to have a men's empowerment cafe. But it's more about, people who are coaches and trainers who come
mm,
on this platform, and they have, it's global,
very
and
interesting.
yeah. And our vision is simple, is connecting people to purpose and creating global abundance.
Right, right. And I mean, from that as well, you get to network, you get to um, introduce yourself to new ideas, and probably, as you say, like get useful tips and feedback, right?
Correct.
Other coaches from other professionals. So,
Correct.
like, let's say our listeners want to get started. Do you have any basic tips on what they can do if they want to improve their confidence, or how do they start their journey of becoming a good speaker and getting their message across?
I think the first thing they have to realize is why they're doing it.
Mhm.
Why do they want to speak? Once they define their why, then the how will
Mhm.
take place automatically. Now, every speaker learns in a different way, right? I learn a lot from watching other speakers. And once you observe enough, then you have to get out of your comfort zone. You have to take that leap. Whether, it's not necessarily you have to be like doing Instagram lives or Facebook lives. It's a good thing if you
Right.
can, but if you find a little uncomfortable going live, maybe record a video of yourself and
Mm,
watch your video and post it out there. You might be a little uncomfortable doing that, but that's a start. Starting is the most difficult part. But once you get
right.
that momentum, it just keeps going and going and going. Challenge yourself that you will post a video every day for the next 30 days. And
Mm,
remember this, it's not about you, it's about your audience, right? What
right.
message do you want to deliver to the audience? What do you want to tell them?
Right.
It doesn't matter what you look like, how you're dressed. Believe me, it doesn't. Because your focus shouldn't be you, it should be your audience. Like when I
Mm,
speak, sometimes I'm not shaven, I'm not in my best look, but it doesn't stop me from making a video on Instagram. I just post it because to me, it doesn't matter. I just want to deliver a message. I want to say something. And I
right.
do. And
Right.
the hardest
And
part is to, yeah, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, and that I think is something that holds a lot of people back, is that they think about themselves too much rather than the message that they want to convey to their audience and thinking about their audience. So they get stuck and trapped in their own kind of doubt,
Yep,
or their own kind of, they're doing it for themselves rather than for the audience. So that's
exactly.
very interesting. Yeah. So can you please continue?
Yeah, so we all have imposter syndrome, right? At some level, like we're not good enough, no one's going to listen to me,
Right.
I don't think I can do this. We all have that. But, you will realize that when your message is bigger than you, your message is bigger than you and it needs to be delivered, you will step in out of your comfort zone. I'll give you a simple example. I have a friend, she's a single mom, and she's been through two abusive relationships. Today she's successful, in the work she does. And I have told her on several occasions that imagine if you share your story to all those moms out there,
Right.
right? That are like that have had abusive relationships, have had broken marriages, and are single moms, and you share your story to them. Just imagine how many of those moms you could save or would resonate with you. Because
Mhm.
whenever I speak in the audience, I don't care about everybody in the room. I care about that one person that understands what I'm trying to say, understands my message, and says, wait a minute, if this guy went through so much and he could do it, what am I thinking? Because you don't know, especially now in the pandemic, you don't know what people are thinking, right? People
Right.
are not
Right.
just, physically not well, they're mentally and spiritually getting sick.
Right.
And
A
now
lot
is
of
the
things
time
have
where,
changed.
yeah, now is the time that you got to go out there and deliver your message. I mean, even my speech this coming Sunday is about me getting COVID and how you
Mm.
have to take care of your health, and your health is very important. So I'm not looking like it's not a speech that I would usually do, but for me the message is so important that people
Mm.
should know that I survived it, I'm alive, and I had not been alive, I wouldn't be able to do my purpose.
Right. Right. And that's very powerful that you can share that and use that experience to inspire or motivate other people who might be going through something similar. That is very, very powerful when you put it in that way or in that light. Um, so like when someone joins the art of speaking, what kind of service or program do you offer? Sorry, got a bit dry there, my throat.
So basically, I have different programs. One is the basic course, which is I teach you the basics of public speaking. It can be done in a group setting, or it can be one-on-one. The other thing, I cater to clients with what their needs are. So, for example, if a client tells me, "Can you speak on can you speak on business storytelling?" I will make a program which caters to them, and I will do that. Or for example, I had a few bankers came up to me and they were like, we're not afraid to speak, but we just don't know how to be more creative and articulate our message. So I made a program for them. So I do these uh, public speaking course programs. At the same time, I cater to what people want as well. Another example I can give you is sometimes somebody wants to learn humor. So we practice humor. Somebody wants to learn occasional speaking, so we learn occasional speaking. And sometimes it's a one-off, like someone has to do a speech in a birthday, somebody has to do a speech at a funeral. I do those one-off uh, speeches as well. Or like you have a presentation, you bring it to me, you deliver it to me, and you go through it, and I tell you, okay, say this, don't say this, this is how you deliver. So I have multiple different
Interesting. So
programs out there.
so you also provide like feedback and I guess a mentoring service to help, aside from
Yeah.
your basic course and your specialized programs. You actually
Correct.
also provide an opportunity for people to actually like record their speech, send it to you, get useful feedback, or do it in front of you. And
Correct.
again, I think that's something that a lot of people overlook, is that it's important that we actually say our ideas, because it helps for us to organize how we want to convey our message. And getting that feedback is just added value,
Got it.
that can't be taken away. Wouldn't you agree?
Correct.
So,
Completely.
well, I was just wondering, like, so let's say you have a client who wanted to be a better negotiator. Is that like a program that you could offer as well?
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Okay, so so it's basically skills around speaking that can be, but specialized to what's the speaking skill for? Is it to pitch? Is it to negotiate? Is it to build your own confidence? Is it to convey a message or share a story? So there's a lot of
So
useful ways.
basically,
Very interesting.
anything to do with communications,
Yep.
I can work with that. Anything that comes to communications. Recently, I've been asked to do a lot of training on sales, so I'm coming up
Mm,
with a program for that as well. And sometimes it's not even about programs. They just want you to come and do like a motivational speech, or sometimes they want you to do a keynote speech. So anything to do with communications, I can deal
okay.
with.
Okay. Very interesting. So, how can someone get in touch with you? What's the best way to reach out to you and contact you if someone's interested in learning more about how to be a better communicator, how to improve their confidence and be a good public speaker?
I have my website, theartofspeakinghk.com. They can visit my website, or I have my email, theartofspeakinghk@gmail.com. They can always email me, and I will be ready to reply any inquiries they have. I have a new domain that's coming up, but that's still being built, theartofspeakingacademy.com. It's not finished yet, so for now they can go to the old one and just shoot me an email or visit there and leave an inquiry, and my team will get back to them.
All right. Sounds good. And just for the listeners, I will leave those links in the description for you to click on if you want to get in touch with Yogesh and inquire about his services or get to know him better. So Yogesh, it's been a very, very interesting session. Thank you a lot for your time and taking the time to share some of your stories. There were some very powerful things you shared with us and some very useful tips. I think a lot of the listeners can use to start thinking about how can they take that first step. I think that's really important, a really important message that you set there, because that's usually where people get stuck. They don't even start. And so they never get anywhere. Um, so it's a really useful tip. And thank you again for your time to join, and
Thank you for having me, David.
hope to hear from you again, and maybe hear that you got #1 in the international competition.
Thank you so much for that. I'm looking forward to winning myself.
All right. So thank you again, Yogesh. See you next time. See you, everyone. Bye
Thank you,
bye.
David.